Hey everyone, I'm TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host,
Hi, I'm Kyle, also known as Fascurreyn.
and welcome back to the BunchaJokahs, where we're scrambling to make this video because they dropped a Xenoblade 4 trailer, future... I can't even remember.
Lots of words. Xenoblade 3 Wave 4 DLC.
At 2 a.m. for us.
I was awake at that time, so that was
Yeah,
a fun one to just stumble across.
it's mad, but Future Redeemed is coming out next week, and we're going to talk about the trailer that they showed off. Just first impressions, just so wild that this is coming out so soon. I thought this was guaranteed a lock for June, July time, but nope. Have it April, just like 1 week before, 2 weeks before Tears of the Kingdom. Sure, thanks Nintendo.
It's just, I mean, we've both been saying how busy we are. It's just jam-packed, and like, with all the stuff about I think it was the album stuff, we thought for sure, yeah, it'd be like June, July kind of time. We were not prepared for this, but hey, I guess look forward to us talking about it more when it comes out and that sort of thing.
Yep, we are going to be busy once again with this and Tears of the Kingdom, but it's a fun time. We can't complain about having games to talk about. So in this video here, we're just going to talk about our thoughts on the trailer they showed off. We're going to break down some of the different parts of it, the characters, what we think we might see, and all of that. There will of course be timestamps in the description below, so if you want to check out any of the different sections, you can do so that way. And I will also quickly mention here that I'm aware that it's like something to do with the soundtrack or certain story details leaked. We're not going to be discussing anything that leaked. Not here. Please
Oh,
don't
I
do so in the
completely
comments.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't know
don't
anything. We
spoil
do not
that.
want to know. So please
However, there
leave all that
probably
be.
will be spoilers for like the main story, the stuff that has already come out. So
Yes,
we'll probably mention that. But as for like the whole trilogy, that is.
yes, there will
But
be
yeah,
spoilers for everything else Xenoblade that's already released.
yeah, but no leaks.
No leaks. Let's just get started on this. So to start things off, we're going to sort of break down the different characters that we see. And I just want to get things started straight away with, of course they're back. Let's start with Shulk. We see Shulk here in his new design, which is basically what we saw him in the statue in the city in the main game. And damn, he looks kind of pissed right now.
Yeah. Like first we had the Ganon reveal from Tears of the Kingdom, and now we've
Hmm.
both got Shulk and Rex as well. Everyone is just huge now. Like what
Yeah.
what's going on?
It's the new trend it seems, but it's interesting that there's not really, I guess, too much to say about him here. But one thing that I think is interesting with both him and Rex is that in the statues for them, it mentions that they're not the founders themselves, but rather the mentors of the founders. So we sort of assumed that they wouldn't be playable, that we would be playing as whoever those actual founders were, being Reed and Cassini. But no, sure enough, they're playable here. As it seems that they're just part of your main squad, which, I mean, it's awesome that we get to play as these two again, but it does make me
Yeah.
wonder, what does that indicate for the people that they were meant to mentor? Maybe it's just a case of that they don't go on to found the city because something happens to them. Obviously, they're not around in the future. But interesting thing at the very least.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting, and it's good to see them back because just all the
Yeah,
references and everything like that. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Like maybe they'll be mentioned, maybe they're just not around yet, maybe they've already gone. We don't really know. There's lots of
there's a
speculation.
yeah. We could be here for an eternity if we speculated on everything. There's so much happening.
Yeah.
But of course, he's got his it seems to be the future connected sword, like we saw him have in the last trailer. He's got one arm. They've got like a metal arm that we see one of the other team working on later. Definitely looks interesting. Anything else you noticed with Shulk before we move on, Kai?
Apart from being visibly older, a lot of people have noted how he's posing in his official art, just like Dunban originally did
Oh, that's
in
neat.
the original Xenoblade 1 artwork. So, on top of him being a tank, which is something we'll get into later, definitely seems like there's a lot more Dunban inspiration now, which for adult Shulk makes complete sense. I'm so here for it, because Dunban's one of my favourite characters. I mean,
Absolutely. That
he's one of everyone's favourite characters. That's
Dunban is done the man, Dan. He's good.
It's in
He's
your
great.
hands, Matthew.
Look, there's a lot happening right now, Kai. Speaking of which, Rex is here to show us a thing or three. I can't believe they gave him that line, but I love it. That probably got the biggest reaction out of me in the entire video, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, oh, it was so cool that they imitated the pose and everything like that, the lines.
Yes.
I like your attitude, but, you know, he's like a man now. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's... Everything about him, you know, it matches, again, the description we saw in the statue where he wields both swords and the fact that he lost one eye. It all sort of fits up, but it's just great to see him again. It's great to see that he's still, despite being obviously a lot more mature than, you know, sort of childish Rex we see in 2, that he still feels like he's got that attitude to him. And, yeah, it's just great to see him again. Anything else about Rex you want to mention, Kai?
He is indeed a dual wielder, as we thought, which is really cool to see. A lot of people have drawn comparisons for him with, of course, Van Damme, who did dual wield in Xenoblade 2, and also Zeke from losing an eye, and again, like, he kind of looks a lot more similar to Zeke now in the pose and everything, so it's just cool to see all those inspirations come back.
Although Zeke just couldn't afford a second contact lens, you know, so... Slightly different reasons there.
Yeah.
But going on to what seems to be our main character, and, you know, they could not have chosen a better name, because it's Matthew. I've always thought I would make
feel? Like, I've got to ask, how does that feel to, like, hear your name in the game with, like, all the characters saying it?
I've always thought I would make an excellent Xenoblade protagonist, you know. I just think it's about damn time, really, if you ask me. But let's go with that. I think they might have named him after me. They definitely didn't do it just because they're keeping N and N as the main letters for them. You know, nothing to do with that. It's just because I exist. But
yeah, I also think it's because of biblical reasons.
Yes.
As well. Yeah. Definitely
makes sense, yeah, because, you know, of course he's founder Vandam, who we heard about from before, and we sort of saw him in the last trailer. Now, of course, we know his real name and whatnot, but he looks great. Of course, using the martial arts with the two sort of, rather than having like the full-on gloves, it sort of looks like the same sort of, we mentioned this before, the same sort of stuff as Noah's sheath for Origin Sword. It seems to be Origin material, perhaps, or maybe it's just a cool blade thing, I don't know. But it looks great, him fighting with both of those. And it definitely matches up with everything that we heard about him in the statues, where he's like looking for his sister, how he was part of the original city before it's destroyed. And we see that. We see N destroying the original city and his granddad, who was mentioned in the first trailer. So everything is lining up nicely. It's kind of wild how we can sort of combine the bits that we are seeing here with stuff from the original Xenoblade 3 game, and it lines up so perfectly.
Yeah, it is weird, because I remember back then, like, doing so much speculation on the founders, but not quite being able to pinpoint what was going on. So the fact that it's all sort of come to light now is really cool to see, especially with all the different characters and stuff. Yeah, Matthew is a really... I actually really like the design for him. Of course, we've seen it a bit before, but we get to see it properly here, and yeah, I like it. It's good.
It's definitely looking interesting. We know that sort of in the future he's going to help sort of rebuild the city and he goes missing, so I could very much see sort of a similarity to Adam in Torna with that sort of ending. But we'll have to see how that turns out. Of course, the fact that he is looking for his sister, Niall, who when I first heard that name, I was like, Torna? You know?
Yeah,
not Torna, even main Xenoblade 2. I was like, surely not, but no, not in fact. This is the...
It's another biblical thing based on a knoll, I think it is.
Yes, and this is, of course, the founder Doyle, who we also see the statue of. Again, the statue mentioned about being lost after the original city fell, and it does seem like part of the story is going to be the search for her. But I feel like she has the most interesting stuff and the most stuff to speculate about in this trailer, almost. Because, first of all, she doesn't seem to be part of your main party. At least not at first. I feel like we sort of all assumed that we would just have the 6 founders as your main party. And instead we have a replacement for her, who we'll get to in a little bit. But it's very interesting. I don't know if maybe she'll join you as a hero later. That's always possible. But just the fact she's not a party member is completely throwing me off here.
Yeah, it's really jarring, but it seems like she'll be completely like instrumental to the story. It almost feels like it's going to revolve around her, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, because at first we see her with she has the flesh eater crystal, as you would expect from a descendant, presumably also of N and N, Mio and Noah. But later on, we see her in like a kind of full-on armored gear that sort of resembles Mio's Mobius outfit a little bit, but with the Alvis core crystal on her.
It's a whole thing to unpack.
What?
Yeah, In her original descriptions, it kind of says that she just like takes care of the kids in the city and she's nice to them. But at the same time, she's a nihilist, like it said in the original founder statue description. So it seems like maybe she was positive, and then all the city stuff happened, and maybe it's just kind of this defeatist view that like takes control of her or something.
Yeah.
Because it seems like she says that the killing happens even without Mobius involved. So it does kind of seem like she's going to become a key antagonist for a lot of the story, at least.
Yes. But it's interesting because from what I had in my notes from the original statues, it says that she later joins the party. She's missing at first. Mm-hmm. She's lost when the city falls, and then she later joins everyone else. So it'll be interesting to see if that's... And, she is one of the founders of the city, so is that something we see, like, midway through the game? Or is this only, like, after the events of the game and something bad happens that it ends with her sort of joining them and helping rebuild a new city? We'll have to find out, but I don't know what connection she's going to have to Alvis, but I think we'll get a little bit to that later with a certain other character we see in this.
Of course.
But before we get there, we have...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, do you have anything else to say about... Do you have anything else to say about Niall?
She has New Year's concept art from Xenoblade 2's art book.
Oh, really?
It's the same design, almost.
I didn't even twig that, that's neat.
To a T. Yeah, it's really cool to see, so I guess this was the reason for them to reuse it. It makes sense. It's good design. That's cool, about it, really.
Well, on to our next character, we see... we only see it mentioned in the gameplay section, but it's Nikol, who is, of course, the founder Ortiz. And he is, of course, we know that he was a Kavesi soldier, but rather than fighting with a blade, he just built his own weapon, which is just these giant arms that kind of like remind me of like the Nopon arms in the back, sort of wings. Looks badass.
Yeah, I really like it. It's very interesting because he's like the only person in the game to not use a blade.
Yes.
So you've kind of got that with him. Looks, very similar to Shulk, kind of in a way. Which I think is deliberate, of course. So yeah, a pretty cool character. Yeah.
Do you think there's any do you think he's a descendant of Shulk who got drawn into the system? Because obviously he's part of the Flamecock system. He's
quite possibly
a Kavesi member. So, and that could obviously tie up with people's theories about the next character, but again, we'll get to that in a little bit. But the main thing that I have here mentioned down is really, of course he's a mechanic, which makes sense with Shulk and that. We see that scene of him fixing Shulk's arm, which is neat. And I have to mention, whilst we're on that point, we see Riku in the background there. So
yeah, what is he cooking?
we all suspected Riku's been there a long time. Of course, he's one of those, I can't remember what they're called, like the legendary Nopon, as many of them.
Yeah.
And he gives that knowing look to Melia. So I'm assuming is he from the world of Xenoblade 1 then? I guess? Did he know Shulk and Melia before?
It's just what's his role, I think, is the more important thing, because he's part of this Liberator group that Shulk and Rex lead.
Yes.
So he's clearly a big part of all that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see more about him, but really I don't think there's much we can say other than it's great to see that he's there. Sadly, we won't get Manana back. It will be sad seeing Riku without her, but it all ends well, at least, down the line. So
yeah. Well...
Well...
until the very end.
Don't make me cry again, Kai.
Yeah. Oh, dear. But yeah, all of that's looking really good. Riku, we don't know what he's cooking, but he's there. And also Melia gets mentioned, so,
Yes.
we'll have to see, maybe we'll see her get captured, or it'll be referenced, something like that.
Yes, we know that
As we
happens
don't
very
really
early
know
on
for
at
sure.
least. So,
Yeah.
but then again, this isn't necessarily. I mean, this is after the destruction of the old city, right? So
Yes.
how long was that there for? If Shulk and Rex have been brought to the world and age normally, they're not part of the cycle. I guess maybe it's been like 20 years or something. I don't.
It's tough to say, really tough.
Yeah, it's really hard to work out the timelines. Also because we don't know, although we know a general idea of how the world of Ionios works, there's still a lot of details that could be expanded upon and they could take any direction. So it's hard to
Hmm.
say, but it will be interesting to find out. But going back to Nikol, we see him, of course, fighting, and this was mentioned in the statues again, the founder of House Rhodes, Glimmer, a Agnes soldier. And I like
Hmm.
how the way that we see Matthew interrupt them fighting is just a very obvious parallel to the main game, when
Yeah.
Vanden, his later descendant, stops the two sides fighting again. It's neat how it has that, the famous George Lucas quote. It's like poetry, it rhymes. It's neat.
Yeah, it's a very cool little reference there. It shows the descendancy. Yeah, it's very interesting to see those two fighting and then breaking up like in the statues.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting because we have a bit of info on that scene in general where like Nikol doesn't like fighting. So he's just like, there's a cutscene on Twitter where he's just like running away from the fight, and then
Hmm.
Glimmer with like a couple Agnes soldiers basically is hunting him down. She's just like, yeah, I want to kill you. It's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, classic soldier.
She's a
Um,
hero, but it's.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, of
it's
course,
kind of interesting.
yeah. The main thing, or the most obvious thing we notice with Glimmer is that she has, of course, an Aegis core crystal, the green one. Of course, like Numa. So is this plus the color of her hair, and even some people speculating on the voice acting, is this a descendant? Like, is this the child of Rex and Pyra that we see in the famous photo? Um, but brought into the cycle of rebirth the same way that Mio is. And if that's the case, we wonder what happened to Mithra's daughter. She gets left out, I suppose. But do you think
Yeah.
that could be the case? I feel like that's got to be almost, but
It's something along those lines, a
yeah,
descendant, a child of a reincarnation. It's 100% something of that equivalent. The green core crystal on the chest gives that away.
yeah.
The exact nature we don't know, but I do think that saying, oh, it's Pyra's kid from the photo makes sense. The
Mm.
photo is still such a weird thing that like I can only assume the significance of it is the children being in the game, like Mio obviously already.
Yeah.
So I've got to say it's that, and then yeah, we don't know about Mithra's kid.
It will be interesting to see, like, in general, if we see Pyra and Mithra at all. What happened
Hmm.
to the other characters? I mean, we won't spend too much time on this because again, there's endless speculation there. But I do wonder if is it just going to be like in Future Connected, where at the very end we saw all the other characters together. They weren't voice acted or anything because they didn't want to go to all that hassle. Obviously, to bring back the
Yeah.
cast of two full games, it makes sense. But I hope we see them in some capacity at least. Hopefully.
Yeah, agreed.
But
I think it'll be really cool. I think they'll all get referenced at least in
yes,
some capacity.
you think so. But final thoughts on Glimmer. We know that she's a healer, and she seems to use, funnily enough, for being an Agnes soldier who resembles, Pyra and that. She seems to have a staff that resembles Melia's. That kind of like, in a sense.
It's a very interesting weapon. One of my
Yeah.
favorites in the series because it acts as three different things. One is that it's a staff,
Mm,
so that's kind of like Melia's. Another form we see it in is as a flame spear, very similar to Kamaravi,
right. Mm.
which I really like because I just like that weapon. And then also it sort of it's like a string instrument, which is used for the
Yes.
support elements like healing and buffing and whatever. So it's just like a multi-purpose thing. It looks really cool. So I'm hoping they do some really cool stuff with it in action scenes and stuff.
Yes, I did notice that we see that little bit in the gameplay when she's using one of the specials, and like a different melody plays out of it as she uses it. Kind of reminds me of like Miyabi playing her flute on the battlefield. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's neat. So that's definitely a cool weapon there. But
yeah. The
d-
character's very interesting because she's described as being stubborn and sometimes like harsh and selfish. So that's more of like a Mithra quality in my eyes.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Uh,
I guess we'll see how the character plays out. In terms of the voice, we still haven't gotten confirmation that it's Sky voicing the character.
no,
Personally, I don't hear it. I don't
I
think it's her.
I don't think it is her as well. Like I can see why people think it, and I wouldn't be like I could believe it was her, but that wasn't who my
Yeah.
first thought was too. It just seems like they're going, a similar accent basically. That's just that sort
Yeah.
of American accent. Maybe they're trying, if they are meant to be Pyro's kids, maybe they try to voice it a bit like Pyro. But if it is Sky, that would be awesome. Great to see her again
Yeah.
in the game. But I wouldn't automatically assume it is, no. Especially
I
seeing
guess it
as
would be
none of the others.
strange to have it's a different character. It would be strange to have the same person voicing them. So
Yeah. I mean, considering the fact that I thought, we'd get Noah's voice actor back for Vandom, for Matthew. I thought they would just use the same
mhm.
voice, but they clearly haven't. They're trying to separate these characters. So I feel like along those lines, they probably would go with someone else. But we'll find out, obviously, in a week, which is mad.
Yeah.
But
Crazy stuff.
of course, we have our final character to mention here, which again isn't one of the initial founder statues we see, but this is A. But related to that, I do
hmm
want to quickly mention that in the room where we see the statues in the city, it is mentioned that there was a seventh statue of a seventh founder, but it was removed for some reason. I'm guessing that must be A in hindsight. And I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, and what an interesting character, because is this just female Alvis?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
it's just like slightly younger female Elvis, and it's like I don't know why they've done that. I'm hoping there's a lore reason, and there probably is. But like
Hmm.
that was bizarre to see. Again, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming when I saw it last night. It was
Yeah, I mean,
very unexpected, but I'm here for it.
well, obviously we've got, of course, the fact that they have the Aegis symbol earrings, like Alvis's necklace, the red one.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's also she just speaks like Alvis. She even refers to others as humans, like she's a machine herself, like Alvis is. And the name A indicates she's like a consul or Mobius. But where does she fit into this? How does she relate to Alvis we see at the start? Is this like him reincarnated in this world? Is this just like is
No
it
idea.
actually Alvis just taking on a different form? I don't think so. I think it's obvious. It's a different character, but it's so interesting, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah, it's just bizarre. Like I was not expecting it under any circumstances, but here we
hmm.
are. Yeah, I think it's an interesting character because the thing is Niall has the Ontos red core crystal, which is indicating, oh, maybe that's an Ontos reincarnation. But A looks a lot more like Alvis and doesn't have the core crystal on the chest, but does have the earrings. So it's a bit
Yeah,
like, why? How does that work? She even actually has clothes very similar to Alvis. In one of the
yeah.
shots, it looks uncanny.
And she
Uh,
uses what seems to be the Monado or a Monado-alike
we will
weapon.
get to that, yeah, in the battle
Yeah.
section,
So,
because I've got info on that.
right, okay, yeah. So she's definitely clearly like a form of Alvis. Like maybe in this new world, a part of Alvis got connected to it somehow. But I mean, the fact that she's A and we've got Z, that's got to be relevant somehow. Um,
Yeah, it could be Mobius A.
and I think this is probably a good point to talk about that time we see it. We'll move on to some sort of side characters here a little bit. Because we see Z, I hate to call him a side character here, but compared to everything else happening, but we see him in one shot with Shulk and Rex in the scene we saw in the initial trailer, where they're confronting Alvis, presumably before the worlds combine and Ionios starts. And he seems to be, he's clearly against Alvis. Like, it looks like he's on Rex and Shulk's side.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't tell whether he's on their side or if he's just standing behind them as an observer, like, do you see what's happening? You know what?
Yeah.
But the dialogue suggests that he's against Alvis, and I don't get it because the cast isn't against they are against Mobius in the main game. You see them fighting N. Like, they're not on Mobius's side. A lot of the dialogue indicates that. So why is Zed on their side for this specific scene?
Well, this has got to be the opening scene, and this has got to be, like, in the midst of the creation of Ionios. Zed's probably only just been born as such, I would assume. He's or at least not long, I would guess. So maybe he, like... Maybe, because I guess Zed is meant to be the representation of the, the fears of the people, of the thoughts of the people of both worlds not wanting change. That's what Zed's meant to be. So maybe initially Shulk and Rex are on his side for that reason. Or at least Zed appears on their side. And the reason they're approaching Alvis is they're like, Alvis, this is too dangerous or whatever. But then maybe, like, this is complete speculation here, but maybe something happens where he leads them to, Zed influences them to, like, go against Alvis and they fight him and he's injured somehow, which is what causes the world to get the way it is what causes Alvis to become A in some capacity, whether he reincarnates himself as that because he's injured by them or something. And then they're like, okay, no, we messed up by doing this. This is clearly bad. The Mobius are taking over. Now we've got to fight against them. Like, maybe that's the cause of events. So they're with Zed at the start. And then when that goes wrong, they team up with Alvis's reincarnation and like, okay, let's set this right. Maybe?
Yeah, I'm
That's
sort
the
of
best
wondering,
option.
maybe, maybe it is the kind of the theory people have had where Alvis is trying to destroy them all because he sees them as gods, and it's like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. So I wonder if, I mean, it's really, really unlikely, but I wonder at this point if Zed isn't evil yet, because if Zed represents the thoughts and feelings of everyone, then he's not inherently evil at that point.
That's true.
But I don't know how the details of that would work. I do sort of wonder if Alvis and Zed sort of swap sides or whatever, but it's really tough to say. Like, this is probably the most confusing scene out of all of them in the whole trailer.
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
I will at least say, and I've heard some people saying this, and I'm going to echo their sentiments, that I'm glad we are getting Zed in this. I hope we get a bit more lore and development for him, because I like Zed in the main game. I like what he represents and the idea of him as an entity rather than, a more personal villain like Malos or whatever. But I feel like getting into his lore and what makes him him and why he is the way he is, I'm glad we're going to be seeing that a bit more, because I think they'll add a lot to make Xenoblade 3's story even better, which, I mean, it's already fantastic, so any more to that is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, we need to see him be fleshed out a little bit more and just have a couple more lines as an interesting character, so really sort of interested to see how they do that with him.
I guess this is a good time to mention the other Mobius we see. We, of course, see N, and the other ones, I didn't take note. Did you notice who the other Mobius are, if they're ones we recognised?
I speculated that maybe one of them... There's one that Niall just straight up kills.
I saw that, yeah.
Which, I think a lot of them share the same models, so I don't think you can pinpoint exactly. But one of them was kind of the female Mobius icon, like the one that, for example, is the console of Colony 11, Ashura's place. And then the one that fuses the Pharaonises together is kind of like the one that is leader of Colony 9 and Gamma.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're the same ones. Yeah, it looks really cool. But I think they're basically going to be their own things. I don't think it'll be that relevant, really. That
would make sense. Especially if we're going to be fighting them and defeating them. You can't have many. I guess maybe we'll see X and Y again. I feel like that
would be cool. I really want to see them again. Yeah.
And it's interesting. I do wonder to what capacity we're going to be getting, like what N's involvement exactly here going to be. Because we see him destroying the city at the start, and we see them fighting against him later at a certain familiar location we'll get to.
Yeah.
But it very much reminded me of that scene in like in Torna, where they're all fighting Malos, and they're all taking turns running at him. I hope we get more combat like that, because Xenoblade 3 in general has some really awesome combat scenes, and they could do a lot with N again.
Yeah, I have some really interesting speculation about all of that, actually. I think. Well, first of all, we see Yen as like they fight him at Prison Island and a couple other areas, so it's clear he's just going to be like an ongoing antagonist in this as well.
Yeah.
That you fight a couple times here and there. I think that Grandad, as they call him, is En's son.
Yeah,
That's
I think
my
that would
take.
make sense.
Because as he's killing him, they look at the... Oh, sorry, it pans to like the picture of when N and M had the child.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I had other reasoning that's completely slipped my mind now, but I do think that that's a very strong possibility.
Oh, agreed.
That's
yeah.
his relation. Oh, especially because they had that like character chart showing the relations between everyone, and there was a question mark between N and Grandad guy.
Right. Yeah.
So, and on that topic with this guy, in the translations they've called him Gondor.
Huh.
Just straight up.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's a translation thing that hasn't been properly done or whatever, but you know, it's clearly the Van Damme line still, if it wasn't already obvious enough.
Well, there was, of course. I feel like there's definitely more to the Gondor name. We have that whole thing where she hates the name for some reason in the main game. So.
Oh yeah, I mean maybe that's it then. Yeah.
Maybe there's some connection to that, and that's going to be explained a little bit more here. So, interesting. Yeah, I think you're definitely onto something there. Is there any other... What other side characters do you have noted, Kai? That's all I've got, but have you got any others you want to mention?
There is one more, a member of the Liberators, who we don't have a name for. She's a lady with, like, short black hair.
Oh, yes.
At first I was like, oh, is that Charlotte? I don't think it's Charlotte. But, she's part of the Liberators, wields, like, a claymore, kind of like Lance. And... She's with the cast at like multiple times in the story. So with the Fused for Honest part, she's there in the scene, and then also the fight at Prison Island, she's there. We've not seen her as like a playable character though or anything, so we don't know what they're doing with heroes in this. We've not seen heroes in any essence of gameplay.
Yeah.
But if they do heroes, then she would be one of them. I don't know. I guess she's just a supporting character.
I do wonder, like, what role classes are going to take in this. Is it just going to be... It would make sense because it's a shorter adventure if everyone just had one class and stuck to it. I don't think they need to do the full class system for a shorter experience, but they could do, so...
I mean, if you want, there's like one more character to cover and then we can move on to gameplay stuff.
Yep, go for it.
So, the last character is one who we only see for like, again, this is me going frame by frame. There's just one lady with like green hair, I don't think related to Juniper or anything. I think they're just part of the Liberators who wield a staff. So again, if they do heroes, then she would probably be another one, or is a side character, but that's about it.
Right.
That's basically all the characters we've seen. I don't think we've really missed anything. So yeah, gameplay.
Yeah, let's go on to that gameplay. Of course, we get our first little look at it. Good question. I mean, to be honest, first things is that in general the game looks very similar. Like this isn't. It doesn't look like they've changed things as much as they did Tornata 2, for example. It seems a lot more in line. But there's definitely some additions. And Kai, you probably have the best go on this, so I'll let you take over here.
Ooh. Where do we start? So first, we don't see any heroes. So they may be in the game, but they've just chosen not to show them because there was already enough info. We don't really know. So there's speculation, you know, again, like I say, there's a couple characters that would be candidates if they do choose to do heroes, like Nile. We'll just have to wait and see. In terms of, like, levels, kind of going back to how Future Connected, your cast started at, like, level 50 or 60 or whatever. It looks, I think here, that your team starts at level 30, and the final boss may be around level, like, 60-ish. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like, because that's, like, the level range I saw across the different gameplay snippets.
That would make sense to me, yeah.
Puts it into context, yeah. In terms of the actual gameplay, it looks like there is... You don't have class changing. That's not a feature. Instead, to fuse arts, you have what they call Ouroboros power. And you know, in the original teaser, we saw Matthew glowing with like the green energy.
Yes.
That is him using Ouroboros power, which is literally just their excuse for fusing arts.
Right.
To make them stronger.
I see.
So that's the replacement for classes. It makes sense. And I think there's no real gameplay differences on that front.
Yes.
However, there is no actual Ouroboros in this game. You can't transform into them. But
Which
you do have what they call a different element. Go for it.
I was just going to say, it's an interesting decision, seeing that these are meant to be the original Ouroboros, right? And clearly they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it was always expected that they would interlink, that would be a gameplay mechanic where your Glimmer and what's the name Nikol would interlink or whatever. But the fact they've gone something very different is interesting. But I like it. So why don't you
I guess there's reasons for it, like they don't get along well enough to fuse. Of course, Shulk and Rex don't have that sort of thing.
And the fact that, of course, Niall, who I assumed would be the one to fuse with Matthew, isn't even going to be there for a large part of it. So
yeah, so it's good reasoning.
Yes.
Yeah, but we do have, instead of that, we have what's called union combos, where two characters. I don't know how it decides which two characters. I think it must be like random, or you choose it in a menu. But yeah, two characters together will create a union combo. I don't know what charges it up or whatever, but it's just a really strong attack. And every character combination, every character pair has a unique attack, which I think is really cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing all of them.
Yes.
For example, Matthew and Shulk has Monado Crash, which is like an AoE burst. Nikol and Glimmer's one is Hellstream, which we saw where it like says Hellstream on the screen. That's pretty fun. So that's your equivalent, just like a really strong attack. I don't know gameplay wise how it's gonna, like how strong it is, but it looks good. Maybe not as overpowered. I think actually.
People will find a way. Give it time. They'll find a way to make yourself overpowered.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, there's that. What else do we have? In terms of each character and like what they do in battle, we have Matthew as an attacker, who has the Ouroboros Knuckles class. I really like that the main character is just a fist fighting class. It almost reminds me of Laura a little bit. But it's such a unique style from it's so unique compared to like Sword Fighter that I really like it. So I'm a little worried though, because in some of those scenes where he's fighting N, he's just trying to go like punch for the face. How easy can N just like slice his arm off? How does that work? I'm a little worried.
That's a good point. I mean, we're not going to start getting into.
That's part of A's character lore, is that they kind of stop Matthew from just rushing headfirst into everything. So maybe it'll play into it.
Yeah. Hopefully, we don't get into the Star Wars level of everyone losing limbs here. So.
Oh no, please. Yeah, but he's, like I say, he's a fist fighter. He actually has some of the moves that Gondor has, like Detonating Hit and Raging Force.
Makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Hopefully I'm better at him than I am as Gondor.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. It's going to be really fun, though.
Yes.
We have A, who is a support unit, and their class is called Monado Fencer, which I quite like.
Interesting.
Very interesting point, because the sword looks like Noah's, and it has a ring in it that displays Monado arts.
Well, they do say that if you like it, you should put a ring on it. So,
but it does operate as a Monado. It has the signs in it and everything.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to see how that works. Her talent art is literally vision. That explains even more and even less in different ways.
Yeah. Raises about 10 more questions than it answers, to be honest.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see how that one goes down and why you have just vision. And I didn't actually check the gameplay effect of it. I just saw that was the name and was like, ooh, that's a thing. So yeah, Monado vision's cool. Nikol, there isn't much to him. He's a defense unit called a Machinist. The arts aren't like very interesting. There's nothing else really to talk about there. He's probably just like a physical tank, if I had to guess. Glimmer, again, there's not much to say because we didn't see the moveset. All we know is that the support unit name is something like sort of Instrumentalist or Flame Bearer or, something that sounds related. We don't know what exactly, but, I'm assuming buffs and heals is going to
It
be
did
the
mention
name of the
her
game.
being a healer back in her statue, so yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
so that would
focus on
make
that.
a lot of sense. Shulk is maybe the most interesting one.
Yeah,
Because he is
defender.
not an attacker, he's a defender. Which
Yeah.
at first I was like, don't know if they should have done that. They absolutely should have, because, he's just like older and wiser and more Dunban-like. So,
Yeah, that's good
I think
point.
it makes sense.
Do you think he
Yeah.
might be an agility tank then?
That's what some people have said. At first I was like, nah, he looks more like a physical tank, but, Shulk was, specifically nimble in the first game. And
Yeah.
we already have Nikol, who's probably a dodge tank, a physical tank, and Dunban was a dodge tank where there's clear inspiration. So I think dodge tank has got to be his moveset, surely.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah. His class is called Grand Soldier, which is quite cool.
Huh.
And he has a lot of his original arts like Stream Edge, Slit Edge, and Monado Buster as his talent art. So good to see all of that
Nice.
return.
Hopefully he has Monado jump here, Bring it in.
Yeah, jump Shulk. And then we end with Rex, who is an attacker still with the Master Driver class.
Of course.
Again, he's got his arts returning like double spinning edge and anchor shot. Probably the most interesting thing with his moveset is his talent art is Infinity Blade, which is
Ooh.
the talent art you get at the end of Chapter 2 in Xenoblade 3. So that was
Yes.
quite unexpected.
Huh. That is weird.
I'm not really sure what to make of it yet, but it's there.
Yeah.
And that's basically all we have in terms of like battles. Oh, also fog beasts are like everywhere now, by the way. So it is future connected.
Right. Yes.
There
makes
were like
sense given
5
the
or
name.
6 fog beasts. Yeah, they were like everywhere. So they're going to be like a common enemy, I guess. It's like, sure, yeah, that makes sense. I wonder how they're going to play into it, but I'm pretty sure we can get a rough idea already.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, really cool to see.
Yeah. All looks great. Again, very, very similar, but also I feel like Xenoblade 3 like Xenoblade 2 needed some changes to its gameplay system. There are things you could do to refine it. Xenoblade 3, I think was so smooth already that keep it very similar, just do some small changes.
Yeah, it is largely similar, and I think that's a good choice. So I like that. That's really it for battles, but they've on the Japanese website they showed off a lot about the like extra side content. Community's back, which you may have seen.
Yes, yeah.
So that's fine. It's kind of different this time. It looks like rather than just completing a side quest, you need to like complete a side quest, have made main story progress, and you need to like talk to people and get items and things like that. There's like loads of requirements now, which I mean I'm chill with as a completionist. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
So.
stuff to do. I know people are gonna get mad if you lock story progress behind community again. So maybe they shouldn't do that. But
I'm assuming they won't, but
yeah,
they would be able to make a canon reason for why they need to be fair.
yeah, and I'm
They'd
gonna be
like,
doing
the
everything
Liberators
anyway.
need their strength, it's
Yeah,
because that'll probably be like a settlement. As for other things on the Japanese website, there's like a completion tracker thing in the game now, which is really hard to explain. So it seems like they track progress for like 6 different things. So it'll be like battling, reaching landmarks, collecting items, stuff like that. When you progress in each of those completion things, you get points.
Mm-hmm.
You then spend those points on the character upgrades, kind of like Eno. So it looks like you don't upgrade things in the normal way, like that's how you improve everyone's arts and level them up and things like that. Rather than your soul tree that you had in the game. So I'm cool with it. I think it rewards doing side content a lot, which I really like.
I mean, it's very similar to the idea of you do side quests, you you get more stuff that you can use to upgrade those points. But it seems, I guess, more directly linked. So you can't just grind it out now, but you actually have to do those quests to get it, I suppose.
Yeah, and they've made efforts to facilitate all of this as well, I think. Because on top of that, and this part is really impressive to me, they've made what's called an enemypedia. So I think it's every unique monster has its own little icon in the menu that will show you exactly where it is, what level it is, what enemy it is, even like the drops of it and everything like that. Like it just gives you like a full description, and I think it's only for unique monsters, but I could be wrong. But it's like super, super detailed, so it seems like getting 100% is going to be a little easier.
Praise Monolith.
Done the same. Yeah, honestly, and they've done the same thing for items, where they'll show you like, I think you can look for specific items, and it will tell you where in the map it is. It's like an in-game Wikipedia at this point.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how well that all works. Yeah, it all looks really good. I think that's everything in terms of gameplay, but I'm just really impressed with all the extra little touches that they didn't need to do, but hey, I'm glad they did.
Yeah, that's really great to see. Again, Torna did a very good job at making things a lot more streamlined compared to Xenoblade 2's sort of quest system and everything. Yeah. So seeing that happening again here and going even more in on accessibility for 100%, because I'm a sucker who's going to 100% it, I'm glad to see that. But it all looks great. Definitely looking forward to getting play with it and see how the characters feel myself. But I guess for now, let's move on to the next section here. Let's talk about some locations we see.
Yeah.
And I think the first one to mention here, Colony 9 is back.
Yeah, it's my favourite. Oh, I've been waiting for it to come back for 12 years. Yeah, I think Colony 9, the original, is one of my favourite areas in the whole series, like top 3. So I'm really glad to see it return. It seems like it's been remodeled to be this Liberator base.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Everything is sunken and sort of rotting and whatever, but hey, I like it. I think it'll be chill. Definitely.
I like that. It's Colony 9 was one of those great things that it really felt like a real community, I guess. Kind of similar to Oresco from Torna again. So having it come back here as that base for your team of Liberators, it's really nice to see. I do wonder if we're going to get a remix of the theme in there for it.
Ooh, that'd be cool. Oh, I would love that actually, especially not like the hometown theme, but like the Colony 9 outskirts theme would be amazing.
Just remix them both into one mega new tune, honestly.
Oh, do it. Go on. Oh, I would love that.
It's going to be great, yeah. What else did we see, Kai?
We saw, I guess the other big one is Prison Island. Of course, that was kind of one of the big signature ones. I mean, yeah, it looks very similar. We fight at the top of it against N, and it looks like Prison Island becomes reactivated, whatever that might mean. So I have no idea what relevance this is going to bring, but it's, almost certainly going to be Alvis related and stuff like that. So, I mean, I say that. The whole, DLC is Alvis. It's all Alvis.
Yeah. It's really cool to see Prison Island back. It's such an iconic location from the first game. This does actually make me think, why is it with Xenoblade 1 getting all the love in this game? Like, Xenoblade 2 needs more locations. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, Xenoblade 2 gets Eno. How does that sound?
Yeah, fair enough. That's all it gets. But
Xenoblade 1 eating good. I'll say that.
It really is. We even saw, I don't know if we saw any more of this today, but we saw in the initial trailer Bionic Leg. So, clearly it is getting all the Xenoblade 1 love today, but I do wonder how much of Prison Island is it? Is it just the bits of it you see when you first go there? Or is it going to be like the interior, like the second time you go there?
Ooh,
the final dungeon?
Question.
Even if it is the full dungeon, I feel like it's got to be shortened somewhat because that's a huge area. But I feel like it's probably just the outskirts rather than the interior, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be like the first visit, kind of.
Yeah.
Or possibly, I think they could, possibly remix the build-up. Like, the actual final area part of it is the same, but maybe maybe there's like a
What-
path to Prison Island, which kind of uses the same textures, but is in
What
a
if Kai-
reused way.
I'm just getting myself too excited for
Oh,
stuff that's
God.
not going to happen. But
Here
if
we go.
no, Prison Islands is like the final area of the first game. What if it's combined with like bits of the world tree in the interior from Xenoblade 2?
Oh, that would be
It's
amazing.
not going to happen, but that would be incredible.
Oh, you've now set my expectations so high.
Yep. I am sorry to everyone watching this, because it's
I'm
not going to
here for
happen.
that, though.
But that, yeah, like combining the final climb from both games into like the final area. I mean, it probably won't be the final area in this game, I would assume. But even so, that would be really neat. But whatever it is, I'm glad it's back.
Yeah, it would be, dare I say, epic.
You dare say? I'll allow it.
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, of course, I scraped through every frame of this to see what I could find. Areas were really hard to discern. Like, they did not give us much in the background. There was one place
Yeah.
with, like, an Agnes camp, and, like, just general war grounds and, like, colonies that fused together and shit like that. There's really not much else to say. Of course, we know from the original trailer that we sort of see some Bionis Leg-esque areas.
Yeah.
And, like, that's kind of it. The only other thing I have is in the promo art for it, where you have all the characters standing there looking all cool. You do see it's to the right of Prison Island, and it's like a cobbled like ice area, and I wonder if it's like Tantal or something, or if it's an entirely new area. But it's definitely like new.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying that Tantal needed some love, so oh yeah, I can see it. It looks icy and there's like ruins as well.
Yeah, and we can see from some gameplay that like this ice area is going to be a fairly reasonable portion of the game's areas. Which I like, because Capticom Peak was way too small. So
yeah, that definitely gives me Tantal vibes. So I think if that is part of like you got Bionis Leg and Tantal and Prison Island, I feel like that would make up a good 20-hour game worth of locations if it's going to be tournament length. I think that would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. And of course we do see the original city, but I feel like that's going to be the opening of the game. I don't think we're going to get any time exploring it, seeing as it's going to be destroyed immediately. Yeah. So.
Yeah. There's only one more area I wanted to talk about, and like this is me clutching at straws. But there's one very brief part where you see and the background is just like whatever. It's kind of orangey, but like you see part of a house, and it kind of struck me as odd. In the trailer it's at like 217, 218, that kind of part. And it might just be like a regular house in the game and it's nothing weird. But the house looks weirdly like, how do I say it? Like Earth-like? Like it doesn't look like a house that would be seen in any Xenoblade game. Like Xenoblade 3 especially, it doesn't look natural, because houses like that just don't appear. But even in the first two games, the only place you see that kind of thing, I think, is in like Elysium. It's like a ruined version of it. So I'm not sure how that works.
I mean, that's just before she starts talking about, we see flashbacks to Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 1 with the Beanstalk, and, of course, Klaus's starting universe, which obviously we're going to get some bit more lore in that, which is great. But, so I guess that could be to do with Elysium in that case. Maybe we see Elysium, if they're going to bring back another Xenoblade 2 location, Elysium would be such a great one, because it, of course, isn't just Xenoblade 2 representation, it's the entire series representation, because that's where it started. That's where the whole Beanstalk. So, I'd love to see that. And that fits with my seeing the world tree in their theory.
Oh, it would be great. I think more Elysium would be pretty cool to see, and yeah, it was just like a tiny snippet, but like if that ends up being something significant, oh boy, I'm latching onto it.
Yes. But that's probably it for location. So before we end things off, I feel like we've done quite a lot here, but is there any other last speculations or theories or little story ideas you have that you think you haven't mentioned yet?
I guess I have a general idea of how the beginning of the story might go, but which is the expected stuff. It starts with the city being attacked and being exploded.
Yeah.
Niall goes missing, so Matt's like, "Oh, I've got to look for her."
Yeah.
Along the way, I think he's already friends with A. Like it seems like they already got along, so maybe something happens there. He then comes across Glimmer and Nikol early on, breaks up their fight. Shulk and Rex then come in and protects them as well, and like, oh, here's our Liberator town. I think that's all going to be like the first 10-20% of the game.
Yeah.
And then after that, I mean, who knows? I think they've deliberately left like the second half of the story out completely.
Exactly.
So
because the thing is, we do very much like Torna. We have an idea of how it ends. From both the fact that this is a prequel to Xenoblade 3, but also from the statues, we know that these people clearly survive and go on to found the city. So at the very least, hopefully we won't get anything as depressing as Torna in that regard.
Oh god, we'll see.
But they'll find a way.
That's basically it for story, yeah. Like, I just don't get the whole world state thing still. Like, I think I'm just being kind of dumb, but like, I'm looking at all of that and I can't fit the timeline together in my head with Xenoblade 3. Like, it was all figured out until this game came along and I'm so confused now.
Yeah, same here, but I can't wait to find out, obviously. I mean, it's... in 6 days' time, I'm going to be playing this. You'll probably be a little further behind, because you're going to stream it and you need the right time for that. But even still, it's coming a lot quicker than we expected.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait.
I only have other, like, minor notes, but that's basically it for the game itself.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we have the Amiibo.
Yes. Yes, the Pyronifera Amiibo were confirmed to be coming July, and they actually let you use the Aegis sword on the sword wielding class in Xenoblade 3, which is both Aegis swords, which is nice.
That's really cool. And not only that, but they announced Noah and Mio Amiibo. So
yes, and
there's that.
I wonder if because I didn't expect the Pyronifera Amiibo were for Smash, so I didn't expect them to have necessarily an addition to this game, which is neat. I wonder if Noah and Mio will do anything. I'm not sure. It might be a bit too late for it to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
But usually, I mean, as far as I'm aware, every Amiibo has done something, right? And Noah and Mio...
Maybe?
Otherwise they're just, they've got to have some sort of NFC feature, otherwise they're just a figure. Whether it's...
Maybe it's like alternate outfits or something. Like you can get Noah's outfit to play it on Matthew, which... Like, I don't know why you would do that, but...
That's a good point, actually, because I feel like they've got to do something. Because every Amiibo does, and obviously Noah and Mio can't do anything for Smash until the next Smash game, maybe.
Yeah.
But, so I feel like, costumes or something like that is a pretty safe bet. Or even maybe it's as simple as you scan this and it gives you items, the classic cop-out one.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Either way, it's neat we're getting them, and I'm a sucker, so I'm probably going to buy them.
Yeah. I do want to point out the logo as well. Kind of the thing people have said. How I mean, first off, the name of it is obviously the reference to Future Connected. But also, you can see that at the beginning of the logo, you kind of have the stroke that Xenoblade 1 has, the art stroke, the brush.
Yes.
And then at the end of it, you see the flame from Xenoblade 2's logo, so it's like, that's a pretty cool reference. I've also been seeing people say that these, like, there's the sad song you hear in the trailer that is going to make you sob 50 hours in.
Yeah.
Some people have been saying, and I don't know if it's true, people have been saying that it might have been sung by the person who sung the, like, ending song for Xenogears or Xenosaga. Like, apparently it sounds uncannily similar. I don't know if that's gonna be a thing. I don't know anything about that, but I guess it would be a cool reference if nothing else.
Yeah,
I mean, swear to God, if they try tying Xenosaga and Xenogears into this, like, in a really strong way, I'm going to just... I don't know. I'm just giving up at that point.
They're not allowed to do that until they port them onto the Switch, give them remasters. Come on, Monolith Soft and Bandai Namco and whoever's involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be interesting.
The only other thing I have is we've gotten the battle theme already. They've released it, and it's very good. It's very future connected feeling, almost Fog Beast like.
Yeah, I've only heard a bit of it. I haven't actually gone and listened to the full thing, but I know it's going to be damn good. So
It's about as good as you would hope it is. I'll say
Yeah.
that. And the one very very final note I have is, of course, they've been uploading a lot of like exclusive clips to Twitter. Um, One of those, there's like a minute long cutscene it shows where the characters are just talking in Japanese. I don't know what they're saying. But the thing that stuck out to me is the background ambience. Where. You know that super boss area in Xenoblade 3 where like Sword March was? Or is,
Yes.
I guess, the massive crater.
Yeah.
You know there's like the really annoying bird screech sound?
Yeah.
That ambience is playing in the cutscene, and I lost my mind listening through it because just every 20 seconds again, just and it's like, oh my god, shut up. And that's all I have. That's everything. Every bit of
That
info
is
I can find.
That is
Yeah.
the true super boss. It's trying to deal with that sound effect.
Oh, it's going to be so good. And yeah, of course, we're going to cover it all here and talk about it in
Yes.
time.
Definitely. I'm very hyped to it. I have no clue how I'm going to fit everything together with this and Tears of the Kingdom and Star Wars games and all shit coming out. It's ridiculous, but it's going to be a fun time, no matter what I end up playing when. So this is,
Yeah.
very excited. Like I said, of course, we'll be covering that all on the channel. Once we've both finished it, we'll be doing different discussions on what we think of it, what we think it might mean for the future of Xenoblade, all sorts. There's going to be so much content. So
There was going to be a Tears of the Kingdom discussion
There was.
before this dropped.
but we'll probably include that in the main podcast now. So we will, of course, cover that as well. You can check all of that out, no matter what it ends up being, no matter what ends up happening. There's so much to cover, and it'll all be here on BunchaJokahs, either on YouTube or on Spotify for audio-only version. All just under the name BunchaJokahs. Please follow us and subscribe to us so you can check all of that out. But also, Kai, where else can people find you at?
They can find me at twitch.tv/Fascurreyn, where I was playing through Inazuma 11. Not immediately as soon as this comes out, but give it a couple weeks and then I'll be going full steam ahead with playing this DLC. So if you want to see my live reactions, then that's all there.
And are you going to be uploading that to your YouTube channel afterwards, I assume?
Yeah, a couple weeks later it'll all be on YouTube too.
Yeah, so there'll be links to all of that in the description below if you want to check any of that out. Of course, Kai's original Xenoblade 3 playthrough is on YouTube as well, so definitely give that a watch. And yeah, just stay tuned to us here for more discussions, regular monthly podcasts. It's going to be crazy time, so thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and good luck playing everything. Oh god.
Oh god.